Welcome back to the farm, everyone. Nice beautiful morning here in central Illinois. Temperatures climbing back up into the upper 80s, lower 90s after a week of cooler weather from those rains. In typical fashion, I made the mistake of entirely planning my day out last night. I was going to have some moderate to rigorous physical exercise in a grain bin to start, and then once we got that done, we were going to spray some corn with fungicide. And of course, in the way things go for me, Brooke from the elevator called and told us that they are not taking corn today because they're loading a train. So throws out that first part. Look at the size of that crow on the lime pile. That's like a mega crow. I will be the first one to admit I'm never disappointed when I don't have to get in a grain bin when I was anticipating it. Also, it's nice to get things done like that, so you gotta do it eventually. The brakes on this tanker trailer are really sticky when it's been sitting. I found that if I build up pressure and then just let it sit released, if it'll stay, it helps it move a little quicker in the morning. It's not an issue after the first time it moves, it's just when it's been sitting for a couple days. They don't go unless they've been depressurized or repressurized for a while. Obviously, patience is not my primary virtue. There we go, finally. Without it.
Good thing you saw it. I wouldn't have.
I don't think it's that necessary. Got mine at the feeding trough here, and looks like Dad may have actually already filled
See if they
this
have,
up.
I run get it.
Jeff's gonna go pick up a load of chemical. I've got a tiny bit of time to kill. I've got one job Dad wants me to do first. It involves the beloved sweet corn patch. There's Dad's beloved sweet corn patch. And it looks like the raccoons have started to get into it. That or passerbyers have found it and are picking through it at night. So there's two radios out here I'm supposed to find and shut off because the radios supposedly scare away the raccoons. The problem here, besides the potential raccoon infestation, is that I don't know where the radios are. Dad said they're out here, they're in bags. Find them and shut them off. So it's kind of like a wild goose chase, if you will. This doesn't even seem like that much sweet corn until you start walking down it. 4 rows for 1/8 a mile, 1/4 mile maybe. It's a lot of corn, more than we can eat. Are the radios on?
Yeah.
Are they in the
dead?
first planting or the second planting?
First planting.
Are they in the first row? Where are they?
I think she put them in the second row.
Okay, I'll look, but I'm not hearing anything.
The one on top of the hill, there's one on top of the hill right by the REA pole.
Okay.
So,
That's a little bit of help, but not a lot of help. It's the motto of my life. Found one. I started to think maybe someone stole them. Took longer than I was expecting. We were successful. I found both radios. Neither of them were playing. When I flipped the switch and turned them off and back on, they started playing again. Who knows? Some people say that this keeps raccoons away. Other people say to get hair trimmings from like a hair salon. You throw them out there, the smell keeps raccoons away. I don't know if a person just went out there and did a number 2, if that would keep raccoons away. You gotta do what you gotta do to protect your sweet corn. I can't blame the raccoons. This is some really good tasting stuff. If you've never had field fresh sweet corn, it's way better than what you get at the grocery store. Not because that stuff is low quality, more so just because it's sat out for a lot longer. It's been off the plant itself. That takes away some of the freshness. Water hemp! Where are you coming from? I returned the radios back to the head honcho's house. Like I said, that's his project. I do have a major announcement this video, not necessarily pertaining to us. However, in a roundabout way, it does involve us. I probably won't talk about it till later, but stick around because it's an interesting development here in our local ag community. Here's another interesting development that surely colors me surprised. And no, this is not what I was just going to talk about. We are getting fiber internet out here at the farm. I did not see this coming in a million years. I figured we'd be stuck on Starlink or T-Mobile satellite internet. No, we're getting hardwired fiber out here. Gigabit up, gigabit down. I'm a happy camper because I'm a nerd and use all sorts of internet stuff and do YouTube videos and gaming. I don't think it makes the least bit of difference to my mom or dad, Jeff and Chris. The one peculiar thing that Dad and I are questioning about this is the fact that we're not sure how they have the easements to run the internet, because we own both sides of the road in a handful of spots around here. This is not Consolidated, who is the original telephone lines, internet lines. It's a different company. I don't think they're related, unless they're using the township's right-of-way easements. We really don't know, but they're out here knifing in, trenching in, boring in fiber, and they don't have our permission. But I did sign up, so maybe I've given them permission by signing up. That's not how it works. Who knows? I guess they put the line in first, ask questions later. Since we couldn't sweep out the grain bin, we're just going to go ahead and start spraying more of the corn that's close enough to ready to go. Fueled up from the 830 acre day last week. Put in 66 gallons, so ran about 0.08 gallons per acre. Not bad. I've done better. I would say that some of the inefficiency there comes from road travel and just flying through the field at 18, 19 mile an hour. There's the up-off crew. They're spraying probably beans today with fungicide. That time of year, late July, late planted beans are all ready to spray almost. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them. We're going to be spraying some corn. There's an airplane spraying who knows what. Obviously, they're corn or beans this time of year. In a way, I'm kind of his arch nemesis. He's more efficient, but I'm cheaper and more effective. Tanker driver should be coming up the road at any point in time. Change our mapping over. This product's getting the absolute coals put to it. 17 ounces of Mirvis Neo, some calcium, boron, you name it. This corn's getting it all. Pushing for 300 here, I think. There's our tanker, and there's the airplane. I wonder if he's going to buzz me on this field. I doubt it. That's probably against operating protocol. Without a doubt, the tallest corn I've been in so far this year. This portion of the field, I believe, is Beck's 6374. The rest is 6585, 6469, something like that. I'll have to look at my notes. We've about got this first field wrapped up, and wow, has that rain made such a difference on this corn. We had a good stand from planting, just happened to pick a great day to plant this Beck's corn out here. And then I think there's a lot of yield potential out here, as long as we get a few more rains into August. Got the fungicide to protect it. I can feel the ripper tracks from the dirt work project. You can probably see those two. Turbulence on the airplane. It's been a super productive day so far. Jumped through a couple hundred acres. We're back here around home, spraying some of that beautiful Pioneer 14830Q. A lot of yield potential here as well. A lot on the table this year. That's why we're protecting it with the fungicide. And I'm also going to do a little trial work out here. Got a few more of these Corteva products. Excite here, or Excite. It is a plant growth stimulator. Put some of this on with herbicide. The rate is 8 ounces an acre for this, so 40 acres out of this 2.5 gallon jug, if I did my math right. Katie's been out here helping me again today. Last thing we're putting in is called Sugar Mover. Again, it looks like another plant growth regulator, cytokinin, and a few other ingredients. Nice and blue. We put some of this on with the herbicide. Hoping to see a nice little bump. Pioneer, Corteva, our agronomist Paul Yoder's been pushing to try this. And anything we can do to add yield, we're going to look into. I got my first engine air filter restriction warning of the season, so tomorrow morning I'm going to have to pop her open, clean her out. I'm sure when the radiator fan reverses to blow out, these anthers from the corn tassels are all getting knocked off. It's probably getting sucked into the engine air filter. Just a minimal restriction, but not something you want to let run loose for a long time. Only got a few more fields, so not a big deal. If there's any field where big yields are on the table, this one behind the main farm, a lifetime of cattle manure, high organic matter, usually produces. Just has a few washes from the topography that we need to do something about because they are really not that fun to farm around. Terraces, tile, I don't know what, something. typical Marty fashion, he put the sweep auger in with the help of Chris and loaded 2 trucks today while we were out spraying, as opposed to waiting to when there was more help. Never fails with him. He can't be patient, but he does get a lot done. What in the world? Who parked this thing here? Not mine.
Early Christmas present.
Yeah, maybe it's Christmas. Marty didn't tell me. As much as I'd like to pretend this is a demo or our sprayer, it's not. This is Helena's sprayer, I believe. It's one of the newer Fendt Rogators. I think they've been spraying corner beans, and for some reason we were the most convenient place to park, and we must be the cheapest too, because that's normally where you end up. It's not a bad looking rig. The Fendt green has grown on me a lot. At first I was a little hesitant. I think it's not really the worst look in the world. Almost sharper than my Hagie sprayer. This has a 1,600 gallon tank too, which 400 gallons more than what I have, 33% extra. That's a lot more spraying in a day. I wonder if he knows one of his nozzle bodies is twisted. Maybe they check that over in the morning. This has got to be a violation of their liability policy, letting a non-employee walk on their machine. Whoa, 800 gallons in the tank? Should we take it with us? We can go spray this out right now. They left it unattended. The outer boom winglet looks a lot flimsier than mine on the Hagie. I've got a double truss boom all the way across. They've just got a triangular piece. I don't know if that'd be a long-term concern for lifespan, length of use. You can see they've definitely hit something there. I would never hit something with my sprayer boom. Not me. I'm really being nosy because I've never walked around one of these sprayers. It's not a huge change from the old regular Rogators. I do know some people with these and they say they're pretty nice. And the 3-year warranty that comes with a brand new one, I mean, that's hard to pass up on. Oh, it is unlocked. That's interesting. The old Fendt. Oh man, they got a key in it. If this wasn't a loaded custom application sprayer right now, I would 100% turn the key on and check it out, but I think that would be crossing a boundary. Just kind of seeing what the cab has to offer. Buttons. All sprayers have buttons. At least the good ones have buttons. So, a lot going on in here, but probably not much more than the Hagie. Yep, looks like a sprayer with buttons and a 1,600 gallon tank. Obviously the primary difference between these two sprayers, regardless of tank size, regardless of brand, is that the Rogator has the boom on the back and the Hagie has the boom on the front. And we can argue about that all day long, which is better, pros and cons to both. I think that'd be a fun machine to run for a couple of days. Again though, I cannot reiterate enough, that's not ours, not a demo, it's just Helena parked here because we're nice, I guess. Maybe someday we'll get to try one out. I don't think it's going to be this video. Neat to look at though in person. Big rigs. They've got a good reputation. The Rogator name's been around spraying for a long time. A lot of these retailers around here use them. I know some places Deere's the big name, other places you see some Case, some New Holland. In this specific area, I bet 60 to 70% of ground rigs at custom outfits are Rogators. They have new ones, and they're even still running the older ones, the yellow ones. Nothing but good things to say about them for the most part. And I do think this one has been spraying soybeans currently. However, with the flip of a switch, it gets taller, and then you can definitely tell it's been in corn because of all of the anthers you're seeing on there. That's the same thing that's all over the Hagie. The Hagie's just buttoned up a little bit better. It was designed primarily to spray corn. It just happens to be able to spray herbicides and all that stuff. This thing is a fungicide machine from the ground up. Except for the air filter plugging. That obviously something we're gonna have to look at in the morning. It's a new day and we've got more to do as always most of the time. Checking out some beans. I know I've got some 3-4s planted that probably are close to fungicide time. Looking for that R3. These are definitely close enough to spray. I may go ahead and spray them just because you go 4 nodes down, 1, 2, 3, 4. You got some 3/16 of an inch pods forming. Good enough for me. Unfortunately, starting to see some water damage from those big rains over the last couple weeks. Some yellowing out here along the end row, pretty low spot. yellowing out there. Really good dirt. These beans look phenomenal because they are dark, low-lying soil, highly productive until they get too many rains. Then you see the swampiness come out, and that's when you start to lose some yield because of too much rain. I just checked that field of Pioneer 3.7s planted a couple weeks earlier than the previous field. It's right about at the same stage, ready to spray if we can get to it. I'm not exactly surprised that the Rogator's already gone. I've been busy with a few things first thing this morning other than scouting these fields. And Helena, the custom outfit that was parked here, they probably had that thing fired up and spraying by 5:30 in the morning. They don't mess around. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we need to check that air filter. I'm sure it is chocked full of pollen anthers, tassel antlers, not antlers, anthers. What I believe happens, other than just the front boom and the machine knocking all these off, is that when the radiator fan reverses to blow the screen out, I think some of that just immediately gets sucked up here into the air intake. Because there are times where this is pretty chock full, and I'm sure that filter's got a lot of them in it. I put a new air filter in to start the season. I don't have any plans to spray corn fungicide today. I'm pretty much caught up. I wasn't behind to begin with. If anything, I was a little early on some of those fields I sprayed yesterday. Just getting things done while we can. No rain in the forecast, so I don't have to worry too much about that. Not a fan of that. Look at it all. That is actual pollen. You can see that. The rest of this, I don't know if I should. Surely this is a two-stage filter. Oh yeah. Here's the primary air filter. It catches most of the debris. That's what was shooting me the error code for flow. Most of that is from spraying the corn. I don't know. It may have been due for a cleaning anyways. And the secondary air filter, which is right here, that's like if something gets by, it's gonna catch the rest. It sat in there pretty good. I replaced that this year. Well, maybe I didn't, I don't remember. Either way, it looks good. And the back side of this looks good, so it's just getting plugged up. Look at how much of that plant debris gets sucked through that. That air filter was catching most of it, but some of it did get in. That's why you gotta do routine maintenance. And that all was probably from spraying yesterday. That early round of corn I sprayed, the corn was a lot more mature. It was closer to that true brown silk, so a lot of those anthers had fallen off of the tassels, so I wasn't knocking them off. But some of that stuff I sprayed yesterday, I mean, it was like watching them shoot everywhere, waterfalls as I was going across the field. No pollen. They say not to spray corn when it's still pollinating. That piece, though, still comes off after. Dad always calls me when I'm trying to do something. For the most part, we got our routine servicing done. My Milwaukee grease gun didn't work. I've had it sitting in the back of my pickup truck for a week. I don't know if it's too hot or if I ruined it finally. So I didn't get to grease it. Did get the air filter cleaned out, blew off some of the stuff on the cabin, tried to wash the windshield. As far as I know, that's as good as we're gonna get. We have to spray a couple hundred acres of beans today, not really a big day. Just crossing some stuff off the list. And some storm chances into the forecast next week. Could be severe, could not be. So again, we got to consider those things as we look at the stage of these crops. Do we go ahead and spray them or do we wait? And a lot of times this time of year, you're just gonna go ahead and spray them, and that's what we're starting to do. The good news is we are headed to spray just a mile south of the main farm. The bad news is that there may or may not be a storm developing to the west, headed straight east towards us. I'm gonna go ahead and spray this first field. Should have at least 30 minutes for it to dry. I think the actual rain safe is at least an hour, but 30 minutes is probably plenty. And we'll reevaluate the radar after that. Mirvis top and some insecticide going down. You can see the rain over there. My phone said it's going to be raining in 35 minutes. And you can also definitely feel that we're spraying crossways. That's how I sprayed it the first time. Makes sense logistically, but it's not that enjoyable to drive. And there's some of that nice water damage. Nothing we can do. Just finished up this 70-acre field. Here's those rains kind of popping up, morphing, coming across. And now I'm kind of in a bind of whether or not I keep spraying. We've got a field kind of in this area right here where the rain looks like it's headed straight for. And the hard part about the fungicide and insecticide is, unlike herbicide, It's a lot harder to tell if it got the rain safe or not. Herbicide, you'll see the weeds wilting. Fungicide, you may or may not see the diseases mitigated. So that's the complicated part about going ahead and spraying versus waiting. You can see over there 3 or 4 miles, there's that rain that's on the radar, so it's definitely close. It looks like the rain is mostly gonna skirt to the south of us. Jeff's up there in the tanker. The field we're spraying is an 80 here on the left side. You can see the heavy rain over there. We just happen to be right north of the line, might be lucky. We're gonna park in the field and just wait and see what develops so we don't risk wasting $30 an acre if it gets rained off. Now, we don't quite have that much money in this pass, but still, money's money. You don't want to waste it for no reason. It's nice and sunny out one window, and it's raining out the other window. Right over there, so you gotta wait it out. It was looking somewhat clear, so I sprayed the in-row, and then I gotta fill up because I can't fit it all on one tank. And now it looks like it is going to rain, which is exactly my luck. I'll probably sit here and wait while I fill and see what this does, and then make a determination if I should spray the rest of the field. That's what I get for spraying. It is now raining, which is not great. If it's brief, I can still finish spraying. If it's not brief, I might as well head to the exit. To summarize the events of yesterday's spraying misadventures, I sat there at that field, waited for that first cell to go through, and then I started to spray because I thought the next one was going to miss us. And I think in some twist of fate or by some shifting of our chances there, me spraying 7 acres along the north edge actually caused the rain to move north. So that last 7 acres I sprayed may or may not have gotten rained off. There's nothing we can really do about that. It's my fault. I just was sitting there for a long time, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. And then, of course, it started raining shortly after I showed you that. After waiting there for 5 minutes, I moved north 5 miles to my dad's house, sprayed another 30 acres, and it looked like there was another rain to the west. So I decided that although I had the chemical to spray another 150 acres, I just quit. I wasn't going to play that game yesterday afternoon. And here we are today, reevaluating, determining when we can spray. It didn't rain very much. It just was right there at the threshold of, man, I don't want to wash this chemical off and waste all this money. For the most part, I've been happy with our pre-emergence programs. Our post-emergence on this water hemp and beans is just, it's not working. I don't know if it's the 20-inch rows, if we need to be spraying the outsides of the field twice. We're getting all the early stuff. The problem is that the residuals are running out, or we're not spraying soon enough post. We're waiting too long. We're waiting 6 weeks as opposed to going out at 4 weeks and getting the small water hemp, and the Liberty we used just didn't terminate all of it. I mean, look at all this stuff here on this east end of these March beans starting to pop through. Dad and I will end up walking those and getting a lot of it. We probably should have at least resprayed the ends of all the fields, because that should have taken care of most of the problem areas. Although a lot of these later planted beans, I think the problem areas haven't reared their ugly head yet. I'm not liking the way the battle against water hemp is going right now. It's kind of like how Roundup slowly got flushed down the drain in its heyday. We are looking at putting heavier rates of chemicals on, more passes, more carrier volume. That's the only thing we're seeing that works from a chemical standpoint. The pre's are definitely working. They're just expensive, and no one, including us, wants to put all this money down in pre's. Or, let me take that back. I believe in the pre's, but some people recommend, hey, we should be putting on $60 worth of pre-emergent herbicide, and that's a lot of money to swallow with bean prices where they are, and it ultimately is kind of a tough decision on what you should and shouldn't be doing. The most effective way to stop a water hemp is to keep it from coming out of the ground. Once it's out of the ground, it shifts gears to some kind of supercar out there that grows fast, hard to stop. It's a tank almost. You burn it down, it comes back up. Ornery little thing. And the beans, just even in the higher population 20-inch rows, we've got a good stand here, they're struggling to choke out the water hemp, which is really surprising. One thing I do actually believe that farmers have to at least consider is the rye cover crop on your corn stalks headed into soybeans, because all of that cover, that foliage, forage, whatever you leave out there, when it dries up in the spring after you've planted, spray to burn down, or keep it green, it chokes out the water hemp. I've seen it on a lot of fields where people do it. The weed control is really good. You can't cut herbicide out. You will still need to run a good full herbicide program. It definitely acts like another layer of residual, choking out any water hemp and even other problematic broadleaves. The rye cover crop is kind of a double-edged sword for me, in my very unprofessional opinion. I do believe that the rye does slow the soybeans down. There's no free rides. That's not to say that the herbicides don't also slow the soybeans down. So again, you can't win. There's no surefire solution. I do like the rye because it chokes out the water hemp. We're not relying on the chemical as much. You still need it. And I think there is something to be said about another thing out there, especially with our warm winters, accruing organic matter, because I've come to the recognition just by talking to other people, seeing our farms, organic matter is the X factor. You look at guys who put on cattle manure, hog manure, chicken litter, poultry litter, those are the same thing, turkey litter. They have really good yields. And it's not just the nutrients in those blends, it's the organic matter they're adding to the fields. That's why some of these fields that were part of our cattle farm years ago still grow ridiculous crops, because of all the organic matter that was spread out there in the form of manure. And although rye is probably not exactly the same, it is accrued organic matter, so it does have somewhat of the same effect. Fired up the old sprayer this morning, finished off the to-do list from yesterday prior to the rain. I was a little disappointed to see the amount of water damage showing up in some of our low-lying farms. Those rains don't come for free when they're that large of a rain. Probably a really big positive for our corn. It all looks incredible. Our beans, starting to see some ornery spots. And the other additional factor is when you start to get water damage, you allow a window for our good old friend water hemp to start growing back through. So kind of a win-lose situation going on. I spent the rest of the afternoon with Katie riding around, checking fields, seeing what soybeans are trickling in to be sprayed and the progress of some of our corn. I'm sitting at about 50%, maybe 60% total sprayed combined, both corn and soybeans with fungicide. We do spray every acre. There's just variation based on planting date and maturity, different factors like that that kind of influence when they need to be sprayed. Sprayed this one this morning. You can't really tell because I already ran a track out there when I sprayed herbicide, and the fungicide track isn't as visible. You can definitely tell on the ends because I run some over. There's nothing I can do about that. Roughly guesstimating, I'd say I've got another week of spraying. That's not 7 days of actively working, more so just in the next 7, maybe 10 days. I'll probably pull the trigger on everything else to get it done, assuming the weather cooperates. That's just kind of how the calendar's looking right now. To compare it to last year, I had pretty much all of our corn and soybeans sprayed by this time. We had a much earlier planting season, and a lot of our beans were ready sooner than this round of beans. And then obviously the later planted corn is behind as well. Before I pull the plug on the video machine for the day, I do want to talk about the point I mentioned earlier in the video about big changes here in our local ag community. Some of you that watch these videos are local, so you're kind of up to speed on all this. For those of you who are unaware, our local family-owned 4-store John Deere franchise / dealership has officially transitioned ownership over to the larger Sloan's enterprise. Sloan's is another family John Deere dealership, just significantly larger. We're talking 5 to 6 times the size, footprint, store number than Alliance Tractor. We've worked with Alliance and the predecessor company, obviously, Schilling Brothers, for longer than I've been alive. I can remember days of when I was young going into Matt Toon and seeing Dwight Schilling, one of the original owners, in there as a salesman and working with him, or maybe seeing my dad and grandpa work with him over the years. I'm obviously always full of opinions. I just don't know what to actually think about this. First thing I want to say is that I'm very happy for the Schilling family and any other investors involved with the deal. I think that if they felt it was the time to get out, whether from their goals as a family or the business side of things, good for them. I'm sure that they were well compensated, or hopefully they were well compensated for decades of contribution, blood, sweat, and tears from the family as a whole to build their dealership up to what it was. We always loved working with them. It wasn't always sunshine and roses. We weren't afraid to shop around just to keep them honest. However, time and time again, they were always our best option. They always had great service, and we loved working with them. So definitely bittersweet for us as customers to lose what almost felt like a dealership we were a part of, because they were just down the road and we'd worked with them for so long. That's not to say that Sloan's can't also be great for us. It just doesn't feel as close to home. Although they are a family dealership, as I mentioned, they are significantly larger than Alliance Tractor and the Schilling family was. They're just a huge store. If you are in farming in Illinois or a few other states, you've probably heard of Sloan Implement. My only fear with the transition is just the general idea that consolidation is never good for the customer. I'm keeping my hopes up that it won't be a bad transition. I just think that as these dealerships combine, and I imagine they'll continue to combine slowly throughout the world, the country, whatever, that we're going to have less options. When we didn't like what we were seeing or weren't sure what we were seeing from Alliance Tractor / the Schilling family, we could go to a Sloan store and work with a salesman and say, hey, what are your numbers on this trade? Or what is this? What is that? And kind of get some bearings on what's right and wrong. Now we have to explore other options. And there is an AHW in the northeastern side of Coles County. However, it is quite a haul for us. Other than the actual ownership, I don't know that a lot's going to change, at least in the short term here at our dealership. The staff is relatively the same. Obviously, Sloan's does manage things differently, so terms and conditions may vary as the years go on and as they kind of fully implement their way of doing business. We have bought multiple pieces of equipment from Sloan's dealerships over the years. We actually bought our 780 we have now up in Atwood, which is 20 miles or so north. That's where ZK Master Tech is located. We bought our older of the two field cultivators, the 2019. It was in Atwood as well. The 8R370 wasn't in Atwood, it was in Middlesworth, but we bought it from a salesman in Atwood, the guy we like to work with who has since retired. So we have worked with Sloan's, not had any issues with them. I just think long term, the consolidation probably not going to be the best. It limits our options. I have no true basis for this. I would say that the Schillings probably did pick a fairly good time to exit the market. There was a lot of blue sky the last few years, a lot of profit potential and projections with COVID, high grain prices, interest rates hadn't crept up yet. A lot of farmers spending quite a bit of money. Now as we move in to the next few years, obviously grain prices are impossible to predict. Where they are right now with pretty consistently trending upward, input prices, the price of new paint being so high, interest obviously being multiple times higher than what it was years ago, I think that the used equipment market and the new equipment market are going to get very tight. The new stuff's not getting any cheaper. If anything, it's just going to keep going up a couple % a year, which compounds pretty quickly. And the used stuff has been an absolute bloodbath on the auctions I've seen as of late. So hopefully the Schillings got out and are happy with the decision they made, and maybe us as customers can be better off. We'll see. A funny story is that my dad is a little bit disappointed because he took a lot of pride in at Alliance Tractor. We had account number 12. So one of our family accounts was account 12, 1-2. My dad had account 1313. And by the time I came along, and obviously the systems had updated quite a bit, I'm account like 10,070-17. So quite a few digits to remember. That puts in perspective, though, that original count, how long we've worked with Alliance and Schillings. Their systems probably have changed. They don't give small account numbers like that anymore. Sloan's told us that that's probably going to have to go because they don't have a lot of accounts with that low of numbers. Stores and stuff have those numbers. So just show you, we've been working with them for a long time, bought a lot of iron off of them, and I think it's been a good relationship. Sad to see them go, but happy that they're doing it on their terms, hopefully. Anyways, I'm gonna take off. My littlest boy, Graham, he turns 1 this weekend. It's crazy how fast time flies. Gonna help clean up and think about what we're gonna do later and start to spray and try to keep all that straight in my head, which is easier said than done. I appreciate you guys all tuning in. Have a great one. Peace!